Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. We are creatures of connection. We crave being around people, relationships, run with a pack, if you will. But how do you know that the relationship truly supports you? And what are you going to do about it if you come to that realization thinking that, wait a minute, that really doesn't fit? It's kind of one-sided. We are going to dig into that today. And she provides so much insight every time we get together. She's an amazing psychotherapist, works with everybody from teens, children, adults, couples, on and on and on. And it's so great to have her back with us. Susie Engel is on the program. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Steve. Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. And this is a topic that I feel is overlooked. And I feel from time to time, people think about it in some way, but don't know how to take action or even how to process when a relationship just doesn't feel right or doesn't feel right anymore. And I'm not just talking about close relationships like partnerships and marriages and things like that. I'm talking just broadly.
Beautiful.
Everybody. Yeah.
Work relationships.
Sure.
Friendships, anything like that. Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where maybe you met somebody a few years ago and it seemed like, it's good connection, whatever, having fun. They've got friends. You introduce yours to them and, back and forth. And then a period of time goes by and then you see it you see it differently. Maybe you see it for what it is. And then you say like, I thought they had it going on, or I thought they were, cool in a way. Like, no, they're really not. They're not me. What was I thinking? And then you kind of gravitate away from that relationship. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yes. And I think it's natural. We have to recognize that we're maybe attracted to start a new friendship or a new relationship, whatever this is, and get to know somebody. What happens for me is I start noticing I'm not getting to know the person the way I thought the person. I'm not getting to know the person because the person isn't as open or comfortable with intimacy. Not intimacy in that sense that it's
right. Physical,
sexual relationship,
right.
But intimacy that I can be open and honest about my experiences, but that person is guarded in one way or another. And I don't think that's abnormal. I think a lot of people, and we're all guarded in some ways. But when the wall is up, I feel like I'm not really getting to know this person any further. And for me, that makes me want to just kind of let this friendship fade a little bit. If we bump into each other or do get together, that's fine, but it wouldn't involve much energy on my part.
Understood. Yeah. And it's almost as if you thought it was going to go in a different direction or maybe blossom into a little bit more of a relationship, but it's almost like you hit a brick wall.
Exactly. And I get a feeling, and I think that this is part of our discussion today, is really plugging into ourselves. Because if we plug into ourselves, we'll start recognizing something isn't really sitting well. And then we can kind of assess a little more immediately than, I have some clients who say then chasing after a new friend or chasing after a new guy, if it's a boy, a man, a woman relationship or guy, girl relationship, whatever that is, fumbling a little bit. But it's like trusting ourselves to say, this person isn't really meeting me where I am and is like okay to listen to my stuff, but not really sharing good information about themselves. And it makes you feel like I'm not getting to know this person. And that's not balanced.
You said one word, and I want to riff on that word right now. You said trust. And more and more, especially in the last year, me personally, I've been using my intuition.
Yes.
And using that as a barometer, a guide to kind of take a survey, inventory of what's around me, those around me, and all of that. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but once you start using your intuition, you start seeing things in a different way. It's almost as if a veil has been pulled aside. Now, you could see through the veil in the relationships, that might be in question. You could see, but then when you trust your intuition, the curtain opens and it's like, oh, that's really what it was. And, I don't want to see it that way because, maybe you had a certain view of somebody and you thought they were this. And then when you use your intuition, you realize, oh, it really wasn't what I thought it was. Wow, that's what it is. Okay. You don't want to hear it, but when you do, you see it differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's okay to be open to that and hear it for what it is. I think that you're making a good point. Trusting ourselves, listening to ourselves. You're saying, trust my intuition or gut feelings. We've spoken about this several times throughout our podcast. It's just very good information, and it's part of maturing into ourselves. And some people develop this relationship within ourselves, my relationship with myself. Sometimes that goes very smoothly for people from birth all the way through development. And some people, because of just day-to-day experiences that wound us, or, sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's not, but it's wounding. It interferes with that development, and it makes people doubt themselves too. Like, if this happened to me, could it be my fault? And if it's my fault, maybe I shouldn't listen to myself. And then people are more focused outwardly instead. But these relationships, all new relationships and old relationships, are fluid. They're organic. They're not static. They're always changing. We're always changing. So we have to be assessing. My thing for like the clients I work with, for example, I'll have a client and just say, all day he was sulking. And I'll say to myself, then eventually find a way to say it in a productive way with the client. But I'll say to myself, all day, I think that if I picked up on somebody sulking in my circle, I would pretty much, say it in a gentle, honest way. It seems like you're grappling with something.
Do you think that person is in a victim mode and they're so used to it and they don't even realize it?
Yeah, and if I were the client, right? If I were my client and all day, are you okay? What's going on? Do you need me to do anything? That's also perpetuating the person who is sulking. And it doesn't matter what gender the person is or what type of friendship or relationship this is either. It just doesn't matter. What matters to me is, why does somebody spend an entire day, which I would never do, hyper focused on this person outside of myself who's sulking?
So you're saying that one person is focusing on somebody else? Is that what's going on here?
Sulking.
So who is sulking? So it's person A is focusing on person B who is sulking. Person A. You might know person B. I don't know that. But that person is focusing on the sulker.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's all like and then it's with a complaint. Like the person A wasn't helping her or himself either, because all day the person B is sulking, and all day, are you okay? Is there something I can do for you? What's going on? Where I would rather, in the first 10 minutes of it, which is pretty much living in the moment, if we frame it that way.
Yep.
live in the moment. It doesn't sit well with me. I mean, I don't like exerting my energy in that way, and I don't like absorbing people's energy like that. So I would say, gee, it seems like there's something happening for you. When you figure it out, let me know. And I don't mean to sound, crass, but I would probably say something in a diplomatic way like that, and then liberate myself from the day and go off and do something I want to do.
You think that was a situation of misery loves company?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the external focus, it's it's him. And I'm, as a therapist over here in the office, saying, it's you, it's you, it's you. because you're nurturing this.
You're enabling it. As opposed to
enabling it,
being positive and saying, I know you got a challenge. This person A to person B. No, you got a challenge. I understand it. I've been through a lot as well. 10 minutes go by, you have that moment, and then, help them pick themselves up and move along. I want to talk about WIFM. WIFM. WIIFM. What's in it for me? So often I'm looking at relationships a little bit differently, and I don't mean it in a self-serving kind of way, but I'm starting to look at a lot of them now, and where they're people like asking, taking, and I'm a giver. If I got something,
yes,
I got concert tickets, extra ones. Hey, you guys want to go? Yeah. But then one day I turn around, I was like, wait a minute, that's my job here. Like, where did that? Then I started to look at it, and I even gave this advice to a close friend in their situation. What's in it for you? So, but what's in it for me? I think sometimes we need to take a step back and realize what we get out of a relationship.
Or what's at my expense?
That's a tough one to
either
swallow.
Way.
Yeah.
What's in it for me? Am I getting gratification? Is there balance in the relationship? It doesn't have to be equal. It's not a scorecard. Am I getting connection? This is how you started today's discussion, when we're connecting with somebody.
Sure.
And just to briefly backtrack, when people are struggling, I'm I'm totally understanding of that. But my question to this person, if it's a person close to me, is how are you planning to handle it? Not, are you okay? Is there something I can do for you? It's, how are you planning to handle it? And I don't care if it's a child in my realm, or if it's an adult, a young adult, or somebody my age. I just don't see the difference. If we pose that question, the person we are engaging with feels a sense of agency and stops and pauses and says, oh, let's get on track. How am I going to handle this? Rather than wallowing or victimizing themselves.
Wouldn't that be the difference between enabling and supporting? You're talking about supporting somebody, giving them suggestions how they can pick themselves up and move on forward and just, deal with a certain situation. I get there's a lot of challenging situations out there.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure you would agree. Depends on how you look at it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's different ways to look at it. You always... It's tough to even accept this, all of us. You always have a choice. Even in situations where you don't have a choice, you have a choice in terms of how you're going to react to it, how you're going to deal with it.
Well, a lot of how we function is unconscious. And then through some therapeutic work, we become conscious, and everything is a choice. A lot of times early on, we're asking ourselves, why am I doing this? I've already found myself in these situations. That's when the unconscious is really dominating, and we're not really making clear choices. But I will say this. I worked with a boy who was about 12 years old, and he came back because he had a terrible incident in college. When I was working with him, he's 12 years old, 11 going on 12. And we worked through just basic symptoms of anxiety and depression, just symptoms. We worked through the symptoms. I didn't label him this way, and some parental relationships. And when he came back from college, from this incident he had experienced, and he made quick work of the trauma, I said, it's so good to see you. What did you get out of our work together? And he said, Susan, I'll never forget when you said one day in session, you said, even if I feel depressed, I can make decisions. I can still make decisions for myself and have a better outcome. And every morning after that, I thought of those words. And then I didn't feel depressed. This is a college kid who had come like 6 years prior.
Wow.
As a different stage of development. And I literally, any client who comes back after a bunch of years, I ask them, what did you get out of our work together? And it's not me. It's what they get out of it. It's what they're bringing also, and what's resonating from them to me, and then I share to them. And he said, I will never for the rest of my life forget those words.
Wow. That is powerful, and also shows the mark that you made on him when he wasn't even a tween.
Exactly. And when you said, people need to know that they have choices, that's a great context for someone to say, even though, and this boy applied it. If for some reason, I knew for what reason, because when I share things in session with a client, it's usually what's resonating from the client to me, and then I just boomerang it back, but that's attunement,
You're the mirror. A lot of it is you're holding up the mirror so somebody realizes what the situation is, because we don't see it, especially when you're, in the weeds.
And especially young people, and then older people, if they've never been clued in, it's very stimulating, but you reminded me of that story by saying that.
Thank you for sharing it.
The key about this conversation, though, going back to the original subject, is, we'd rather trust ourselves and say, not that we have to end a relationship, but that something truly isn't okay. Something is not acceptable about this situation because I'm not feeling well about it. And why let it prolong for an entire day? Or why let it prolong for 2 years? I had a client who had foot pain. And she came in one day, it was a mom of a client actually, but then I worked with the family as a whole. And she came in with a boot. I think she was a school teacher. She came in with a boot and I was just like, wow, you got it treated. How long were you in discomfort until you got it treated? Because I was going through like some sort of muscle pain or whatever I was going through. And I was into it like 3 days. Not that I wanted an operation, but I surely was going to do something about it, because 3 days of pain is too many days of pain. She was like 2 years. I was in pain for 2 years. And then I finally got an operation. I was like, oh, it's the same with relationships. Why would we go a whole span of time? That's just an analogy.
Oh, I got you though. But let's dissect that for a second. Why would you continue in a relationship that you feel, you feel it? It doesn't support you in the way you feel it should, or you've realized that it's not what you thought it was, but why don't we make a change? I believe it's from our past, and there's things in our subconscious, and there's reasons for it. You want to keep that person available because it makes you feel good when that you interact with them, even though you're saying to yourself, I give 100%, they're giving 20, but I want to keep them around just because want to have another friend in case I ever need a friend. Maybe there's feelings of abandonment and you don't want to cut it loose, whatever it might be. There's got to be reasons that we do it, right?
Oh, there are tons of reasons. Let's think of the most adaptive. The most adaptive reason in my way of thinking is my part in this relationship, I have not worked on myself enough to express effectively what I see is going on. And when I express myself effectively, does this person respond through action? It doesn't have to be a 2-hour conversation. It might just be that I'm learning to grow into myself, and rather than let a whole day persist, the first 10 minutes, I have a very effective way of expressing what I see might be going on, and how might you think about handling it? And in the meantime, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. Do you want to come, or do you want to just figure out this stuff on your own? But I'm kind of cueing the person, like, not if you're in this mindset. Don't join me if you're in this mindset. If you're feeling productive about what you're going through, let's move forward with the day. So in an adaptive way, some people feel like they haven't worked on themselves enough to really express effectively to shape and mold the people around them.
I never thought of it that way. I really never did. And thank you for bringing that to our attention, because it's almost as if you don't know how to, many of us say we don't like confrontation. So we're afraid to confront the situation. And instead of doing that, we would rather deal with it inside, but we don't realize the expense. And that's a great word you used before.
Modeling it.
What are we accepting? It's right. Making you angry. You're wasting your energy. You want to I don't mean tell them off, but just tell them how you feel in a nice way, but we're afraid to do it. So we'll sit with that. Just keep going. Like the woman that had 2 years of pain, didn't go for the surgery.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was so emblematic of the family's problems too. And the thing is, it's not only anger, it's negativity. And you and I have spoken about this, touched upon negativity. It's just like negativity. For me, negativity is like, it's similar to like breathing in
dirt, smog,
air.
Dust. Yeah.
Almost like that diesel smell. It's like
I happen to like the diesel smell. It's weird.
Oh, sorry.
But the rest of it, just like, walking into smog, you go driving to New York City and it's just like on a hot, 90-degree day, humid, and it's just kind of hitting your faces like, But when you have a friend that you have a lot of fun with and you connect well and you're having a great time and doing some activity or whatever it is, it's like a breath of fresh air. You feel good. You feel rejuvenated.
Yeah, it's the joy of life, right?
Yeah.
It's the joy of life. Yeah.
Wow. We come up with these topics and then we realize I didn't think we could talk about that for that long. We could just keep going. We're almost out of time, but it's kind of important in terms of relationships. And really, you said it before, we're always changing. I don't think we realize it, how we're evolving. Mm-hmm. And if you do live in the moment,
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. If you really
it's a good thing to
pay attention.
Notice too about ourselves and others. It's just, what direction are you all evolving? Like, are you devolving or evolving?
Point. This is just a piece of what you offer when it comes to therapy. Susie, how do we find you?
The best way is through my website. It's susanengel-lcsw.com.
Gotcha.
That's the best way. There's a contact request, and it's all good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if this is the stuff that's kind of hard to navigate, and you need somebody else's view of it sometimes when you try to explain what's going on, and because we don't see it, we're in the middle of it. We're happy to, be itch about it, but we don't do anything about a lot of this. Thank you so much for today. I always love talking with you, Susie. You're great.
Thank you so much, Steve. What a great conversation. We scratched the surface, really.
That's the truth, because this is such a fundamental, relationships are fundamental in our lives. And, we only scratched the surface on a few things here today.
Right.
But,
right.
I appreciate you sharing even that college student and his view of things. It's beautiful. Says a lot.
When you said we all have choices, I mean, he really took that conversation.
Yeah.
He really, is such a young boy too. And I will say this, maybe just to conclude, you don't want to go a whole day or 3 years or 20 years without at least giving yourself the chance to express what doesn't sit well with you. And it's even a whole day, in my opinion, is too much time.
Yeah. What's it costing?
So try to stay in the moment, and try to find ways to express yourself. It's not about you. It's about, I'm experiencing this.
We can spend money on things and can be, very careful about our spending and look for deals and buys and things like that. And that's great. We don't realize the expense of this other stuff. If you put a dollar value on marinating all day, weeks with relationship, driving in your car, cursing them out because, they just left you a text and whatever it might be. What did that cost you? If you put a dollar value on that, what was the cost of that? Expensive. Expensive. Thank you. We will catch up soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.